Hey, this is John Lee Dumas, the founder and host of Entrepreneurs on Fire. And if you're wanting to learn how to embrace change and navigate through disruption as a leader, then listen to the Leadership is Changing podcast with my good friend, Denis. He's prepared to ignite.
Welcome to Leadership is Changing. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change. This is taking your leadership to another level by finding the balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing with your host, Denis Giannoutsas.
Hey, welcome to the show, Leadership is Changing. What we as leaders know to be true is that change is constant. Leaders everywhere confront similar obstacles because people are people, but everywhere you go, leaders are overwhelmed, disrupted, and under pressure. They run from email to email, meeting to meeting. Many leaders are not changing quick enough, which means they run the risk of becoming irrelevant and being left behind. Perhaps the show is taking our listeners' leadership to another level by finding their balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. I believe we don't have enough effective leaders in the world today, and if we can get the leaders to step up and lead change, then they can inspire real change. Hey listeners, it's now time to adapt in our fast-moving world. Hey listeners, welcome to today's episode of the Ask Denis Freestyle episode. This is where I'm asked a question by our listeners or share my thoughts and insights and experiences from working with many leaders around the globe. Well, today's topic is going to be around plan your time out before you have to take it. And so let's discuss this topic today. And as I said, welcome, but also thank you for the wonderful feedback that we're getting around the 300th episode and other episodes as we're sharing and releasing those on a weekly basis. As you know, we do 2 interviews per week and 1 freestyle episode, which we're doing today. So my question to you is, how's your week gone? How's it gone for you? You know, whether you're listening to this on a Friday or a Saturday, at the end of the week, what I'm going to encourage you to do is to take time out to reflect on the week that's just been and, ask yourself 3 questions. What went well? What could you have done better? And what will you do now differently going forward? You see, listeners, as we start to reflect and think about things, we start to learn, but we also start to grow even more based on our experiences that we've actually just gone through. All right, let's get into today's topic. As I said, plan your time out before you have to take it. And as I say in my intro into the show, people run from email to email, meeting to meeting. What does that mean? Well, so many that I'm meeting at the moment are struggling or they're overwhelmed. In fact, they've got leaders burnout, as we call it. And that's really as a result of them being on all the time. There's been a lot of stress over the last couple of years in particular, about what's actually happening, what we're going to do and so forth. Having to handle teams working from home virtually, then back into the office. And it's actually been quite interesting to see that kind of shift, that move back into the office for a lot of the organizations and how they actually are handling it and working with their people. A lot of people are feeling really busy, but not much has been achieved. In fact, their productivity is dropping, but they feel very busy. They may not actually be busy doing meetings or doing other things as well, but in their head, in their mind, they're very busy. This is what I call as always being on. And for a lot of them, they are not taking time out to stop, step back, and think about things in particular. They're not taking time out to recharge their batteries. There's a wonderful book out there called The Power of Full Engagement. And it talks about we've got 4 energy tanks: mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. And you think about your mobile phone, the battery sort of goes down throughout the day and the usage that you have. And then at nighttime, most people will actually plug it in to recharge overnight. When they wake up in the morning, the battery should be full again. Very similar for us in our way that we are, in the way that we actually take time out to recuperate, to recharge our battery, and we should be waking up in the morning. Now, for a lot of us, around about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we are starting to flatline in that battery. So we're reaching for carbs, chocolate, sugar, things like that to actually help spike and lift up our energy levels. Now, when we go home, we try to be mum, dad, partner, husband, wife, whatever, right? Sister, brother. And we're going home to do another role, and we're having to dig deep because our energy levels are down. Now, in the spirit of being vulnerable, I want to share a personal story with you. Something that I've sort of have experienced over the last 3 to 4 weeks.
had a couple of deaths around me. One person in particular that I know, probably about my age as well, a great guy, world champion Toastmasters, fantastic, talented person, and within 6 weeks, gone. And been taken away from us too early, but really, really quite hard to see that and see someone so talented and such a great person to actually leave this earth. Then another one too was an auntie, a very close auntie of mine, passing away. And so being around family and being there for them and was very hard. I was working some long hours. In fact, what I was doing was burning the candle at both ends. I had to, well, I wanted to, and I actually walked away from a client. And so that was an interesting kind of process that I went through. You know what? Our bodies are telling us all the time and giving us messages about how we are, what we're doing, and what we might need to be thinking about. And we really need to listen to our bodies. You see, I wasn't even exercising enough. I wasn't sleeping enough. And then 2 weeks ago, I got sick. Yep, it hit me. So for about a week and a half, actually, over that period of time, half of that I was in bed. I had 6 negative COVID tests. So it wasn't COVID. And I ended up having to go to the doctors. You know what? I was really run down and I lacked energy. And that was the big thing for me, was the fact that I didn't have enough energy to do some things. Yes, I got the 300th episode across the line, and that was really great to see. But you know what? I had a team of people around me that actually do the production and do the artwork and so forth, and were able to get that done and get it over the line. But when I stop and step back and think about things and reflect, just like I've asked that you might want to think about doing, I really did need to take some time out. I didn't plan it. And so when I got sick, I was more or less forced to take some time out. Now, it wouldn't be something that's really, really quite positive in the sense that of being on a beach or being somewhere and relaxing. It was forced time out. So hence why, what I talk about today is plan your time out before you have to take it. You know what? I was doing a lot of the right things. But I wasn't doing the full package. So I was doing a whole lot of stuff to make sure that I was on top of my game and doing things. But it wasn't the full package. But because I was doing a lot of it, I actually got through the sickness a lot quicker than maybe some others would get through it. Sometimes as leaders, we experience something, but you know what? We might need to turn that into a lesson for ourselves, but also maybe for people around us. Of late, I've been talking to a lot of people. People have been coaching people and working with people in workshops and so forth, and they are experiencing a lot of what I've just talked about. And sometimes I may go through something that also will actually help me understand and experience it, so then I can help others as well. But what's some things? Because you see, listeners, you may be starting to feel some of this as well. You may be going through some of this. So what can you do to make sure that you're on top of your game and that you are planning time out? Well, first of all, plan it. That's it. Take some time. Put it into your calendar. Now, for a lot of you, it's easy to say, but a lot of you are going to be, I'll just push it off to later. But later never happens. What we have to do is we need to take some time out on a regular basis. Otherwise, it just won't happen. Get the right amount of sleep. Now, that's interesting for me to say it, but you know what? For every single person, it's different. I know people who get 4 hours, 5 hours sleep, and that's more than enough for them, and they function very well. And I know others that need 8 hours sleep. And for me, over the last week and a half, I've had some big sleeps. There have been some nights at the beginning when I was really quite not well that I didn't get to sleep much at all. But the more and more sleep that I had, the better my body could recover. And, even last night, 9 hours sleep, boom, there it is. Making sure that I'm going to bed early, making sure that I can rise early, but am I feeling refreshed and I've got energy? And that's what's been happening for me, which is brilliant because it actually helps with the recovery. Managing stress is something for you to think about. And managing stress can come in many forms, but sleep and a few other things I'm going to share actually will help you with that. One thing is actually just acknowledging that you may be under stress and talking to someone about it. I always am a great believer of upping our vitamins. Now, for everybody, that may not be right for you, and you may even need to talk to a doctor about this. But for me, I always up my vitamins. And my vitamins, if I'm actually working some really long hours or I feel like I might be, a lot happening for me, I will up those vitamins to make sure that I'm okay. I'm talking about vitamin C and vitamin B and a few other things as well. But the other one is to eat healthy. If you're not eating healthy, you can pack on the weight. And then there's some other things that result from that. Also, I think another one is around about having some positive thoughts, because our thinking will actually determine our behavior or action, which actually then produces certain results. And so positive thinking can be a really good thing. Now, where do you get this positive thinking? Because you see, it really is down to the 6 inches between your ears right now, around your mindset. Podcasts, books, YouTube clips, being around people who are positive. That's really, really cool. So in other words, surround yourself with like-minded people or even bigger thinkers than you to help you stay positive. You've heard me before, maybe in other episodes, talking about drinking heaps of water, 2 to 3 liters if you can each day. Why? Because that flushes the toxins, but it keeps our brains hydrated, so then we can be energized, we can be alert, and we can move forward. Having someone to talk to, as I said before, is really important, but make sure it's somebody you can trust and someone who's going to be there to listen. You know what? I'm bounced forward already. I'm already underway with things. It's great. And I have more energy now than I have had over the past couple of weeks. And it's really good because it's another reminder to Denis, or another reminder to myself, and probably to you listeners as well, that we do need to plan our time out before we have to take it. Do that. I ask people this one question. When was the last time you took a decent break? Now, some of them go, oh, I took a couple of weeks here. I'm not talking about a couple of weeks. I'm talking about a decent break. Because, if you took 1 week or a long weekend or maybe 2 weeks, for a lot of you, you still have your phone with you. You still actually responding to emails. You may even go on a couple of conference calls, or you may be responding to people's text messages. It's about you getting into an environment whereby you can switch off fully. If you can go somewhere whereby you don't need to be responding to other people, that's a good thing. So the question is, when was the last time you took a decent break? How might you work a decent break into your schedule, into whenever you can do it, whenever it's the right time for you? Listeners, there's never a right time for it to happen. Oh, we've got this project on, this initiative, got this other thing on. There's never going to be a right time. Just take time out to actually put time aside for you to go and have a decent break. Listeners, remember, plan your time out before you need to take it. Have fun and keep smiling.
Hey, listeners, what we as leaders know to be true is that change is constant. Change is incredibly scary, especially with the unknown and unfamiliar territory. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing. Look out for the episodes as they're being released. Download them, have a listen, put a review and a rating. Feel free to share them with your friends, your family, and your network. Hey, if there's any feedback you'd like to give me about the show, or if there's a question you have for the Ask Denis Freestyle episode, then send me an email, dennis@leadingchangepartners.com. Hey, listeners, it's always a pleasure being with you. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Leadership is Changing with your host, Denis Giannoutsas. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change, inspiring executives and leaders to adapt and lead a bigger game in a fast-moving world.